What if I told you it was already there? It's just that now you can see it. So, if you have been feeling like something has been bubbling under the surface, you can blame the full moon in Scorpio. And if you have been feeling like time is slowing down, you can blame Pluto that is slowing down to station retrograde. And if you have been feeling like life is about to throw you a massive curveball, you can blame Uranus that has newly entered Gemini. And if you have been feeling like your communication has been fast, sharp, and maybe a little aggressive, you can blame Mercury in Aries. And if you have been feeling like it is time to finally take action, you can blame Mars in Aries. And listen, don't get it twisted. Mars is still ruling the sky because we still have Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron all in Aries, and those all disposit back to Mars. So I'm Lindsay, and this is Wavelength Astrology. So let's dive into it. So the sun is in Taurus and the moon is in Scorpio, and they're in exact opposition. And that's what always creates a full moon. So the sun in Taurus wants to assess value and assign value to things. This is us asking ourselves, what really matters? What do I like? What is worth my investment? And Scorpio is here to show us things that we couldn't see before so that we can make a more informed decision. This full moon in Scorpio is going to expose things that have been buried deep down. And this could be about yourself. This can be about your own feelings and your own opinions that you have buried because you didn't want to face them. It could be that lingering Piscean delusion or disassociation that you were clinging on to. This could be about other people. People might accidentally or purposefully show you how they really feel, who they really are, what their motives really are, and maybe even what they're not willing to say out loud. So this full moon is really about helping us evaluate the situations with all the facts. And this is not just any full moon in Scorpio, because this full moon in Scorpio is actually connected to all the other major things that are happening in the sky right now. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, but it's also ruled by Mars. So with Pluto getting ready to go retrograde and Mars ruling the sky right now, this full moon really is attached to this full moon is everything. This didn't happen out of nowhere, but your realization of it is what's going to feel like it's happening out of nowhere. Because we're still coming out of the Piscean fog of the Neptune and Pisces era. It's not just like, boom, it's done. This process is unfolding. So we're all getting reality checks and coming out of the fog, and we're doing that in steps and in layers. And this full moon in Scorpio is a huge step in coming out of that Piscean fog. Because let's just be real, we had on rose-colored glasses, we were in denial, delusion, disassociation, and we were not wanting to see things for what they really were. So this full moon in Scorpio is going to show you some things, and once you see them, you are not going to be able to unsee them. Scorpio doesn't forget, okay? If you have ever done a Scorpio wrong, just know they do not forgive you and they will not forget. And at least not fully anyway, right? Like it will always be there in the back of their mind, and you will never get that Scorpio the same way again. You will never get the same version of them again. And the phrase, revenge is a dish best served cold was written for Scorpios, I swear. So listen, this full moon disposits to Pluto. So whatever this full moon brings up is directly tied to the Pluto retrograde that is coming up. So pay attention to what this full moon brings up and just understand that that information is going to unfold over roughly the next 5 months. And what is Pluto in Aquarius all about? It is definitely power to the people, okay? So we are going to be doing an internal review of how do we take our power back. And a key element in that for sure is coming together with like-minded people. How are you going to do that? Community, right? And Aquarius is community. It's also technology. So it could be online communities, but it can also be in-person communities, and we'll get to that with Uranus and Gemini. Pluto in Aquarius is transforming communities. So how are your communities going to change? And are they just going to transform, or do they need to die and be reborn, right? Like, are we burning this whole shit to the ground, or does it just need to be reshuffled to make it make sense again, right? So that's a big theme. Also, Pluto in Aquarius is transforming what we think is weird. Things that we considered weird are going to be mainstream and empowered. And things that we thought were mainstream and had the power, we're going to start thinking are weird. So this full moon is going to shine some light on things related to that. And it's going to continue to unfold over the next 5 months. And the key theme here is we want to connect with people that are on our wavelength, the people who see what we see, the people that are building towards the same goal, the same future, the same world. There is power in numbers, and there is power in rolling deep. And with Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, that is more true now than ever. It's about transforming who we gather with, what kind of future we are building, what kinds of people and spaces are actually aligned with who we are becoming. And listen, Pluto in Aquarius disposits directly to Uranus in Gemini. Uranus in Gemini is reshuffling our neighborhoods. So we're talking about local communities like your neighborhood, your local church, your local homeschool community, your local community garden, your neighbors, okay? So there's a reshuffle going on here. And you're going to be shown something about that with this full moon. So think about what happened when Uranus was still in Taurus. We had COVID and the lockdowns, and we were all encouraged to stay home by ourselves. So to stay isolated behind our 4 walls, the complete opposite of coming together and building community, right? And at that time, we still were finishing up Pluto in Capricorn, and that was the control structures. So the control structures knew that their time was limited and the power was going to be passed from them to the people. So they were trying to keep us from coming together because that's where our power is going to be found. They absolutely used COVID as a way to keep us more separated. But now that Uranus is in Gemini, Uranus in Gemini sees through the bullshit, okay? And so it asks why we were so disconnected in the first place. It asks us what happens when people start talking again. It asks what happens when we find each other again. So like this is like knowing your neighbors again and coming together in your local communities. That is where our power is going to be found. And Uranus in Gemini is also asking like, so what's the plan, right? Because Uranus in Taurus showed us a lot of things about our systems that did not work. And so Uranus in Gemini is like, okay, so what's the plan? Because Gemini is a beautiful mind. It can rearrange the pieces until it makes it make sense. Gemini is the problem solver. And Uranus in Gemini is helping us come up with a new plan for the future. But before you can make a good plan, you have to know the truth. You have to know all the information. And that's what this full moon in Scorpio is here to do. It's surfacing the truth of the situations and the people, places, and things around you so that you can make informed decisions. Pluto hands the story to Uranus and Gemini, and then Uranus and Gemini hands the story to Mercury and Aries. Mercury and Aries hands it to Mars, and that's where it stays. It stays with Mars. The buck stops here because Mars is ruling the sky right now. And that means that this is not just about revealing, this is about taking action. So what are we going to do about it, right? So we're revealing the problem, and then Gemini is like, okay, so what's the plan? And then all this Mars energy is like, okay, so now what are we going to do about it? So questions that we want to be asking ourselves: who is actually in your corner? Who is truly aligned with you? Who is on the same page as you? Who wants to build towards the same future as you? What communities are actually for you? What environments still fit who you are now? Because maybe something about your neighborhood doesn't feel right anymore. Maybe something in your friend group is telling you that you guys are not on the same wavelength anymore. Maybe something about your job, your church, your gym, or any place like that is showing you that it's not exactly what you thought it was. There were things going on behind the scenes that you were not aware of, and it changes your whole viewpoint of it. This full moon is going to bring hidden dynamics to the surface, and that is going to change your perspective. And once you have that new perspective, Taurus needs to reevaluate. Is this worth it? Does this bring me value? Is this a wise investment of my time, my energy, my expertise? And this can also be a realization about loyalty. Taurus and Scorpio are both fixed signs, and Scorpio is fixed water. Fixed signs are deeply loyal, sometimes loyal past the point of common sense. But don't get it twisted, because once Scorpio sees the truth, it will never unsee it. So this full moon might make you realize that you have been loyal to people, places, and spaces past the point of where it makes sense. Not because you are foolish, but because at one point it did make sense. At one point these things did have value. But this full moon is showing you that just because this used to have value doesn't mean that that can't change, especially as you grow and evolve as a person. Other people grow and evolve as people. Communities grow and evolve, right? So I keep seeing the Page of Wands in my mind's eye, so I know that there is a message here. And there is a boy standing in the desert looking out into the distance, and it's barren. It's a barren desert where he's standing. There's nothing growing. There's no fruits of his labor. There's just nothing there for him anymore. So he's looking out into the distance to see if there is a better space for him to be that has more opportunities, more resources, more people to come together with. And in the distance, you can see that there are pyramids, which to me signify there used to be a thriving community here. There used to be something of value here, but it's not there anymore. So it's not foolish that he's there. There used to be a reason for him to be there, but now there isn't. So now the circumstances have changed, and now that there's no reason for him to be there anymore, it's time to look out into the vastness of the world and decide, where does the next adventure take me? And I'm getting, not all who wander are lost. Listen, sometimes you need to clear the space. Sometimes you need to embrace the void. And sometimes you have to hold that empty space for something new and better to come in. So let's pick a card for our tarot message. Okay. So we have the 9 of Spring, and it says, protect the fruits of your labors. Prepare for possible challenges that lie ahead. Environmental conservation. As your hard work pays off and you have more to show for your efforts, it becomes very important to look after the fruits of your labors. The energy out in the world can be intense. Every morning as you start your day, ask God, the angels, and the fairies to protect you from negative people and energies. You are up to the tasks set before you. This is also a card that reflects environmentalists and those who love all the plants and animals of Mother Earth. Stand up for important causes, such as protecting wildlife, the oceans, and our food sources. A beautiful fairy stands in defense of the newly bloomed daffodils in her garden. She is joined by her ladybug friends to show unity with nature in her cause. Additional meanings of this card: attending to the protection of what you have created, preparing for challenges that lay ahead, have a strong immune system, keeping your resolve,